Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video we're discussing Escape from Sunset Grove, written by Minna Lindgren. It's the second book in the Lavender Ladies Detective Agency series. It's touted as a cozy mystery, but it's not really a cozy mystery. It is very cozy, but there's no real mystery in this book. It's more about these characters in their 90s as they navigate life in the outside world, but also in the retirement home, Sunset Grove. I do enjoy the characters very much. I did a video for book 1 in this series, and this is book 2, and book 2 is just as good as book 1. When we start this book, there's renovations going on at Sunset Grove, and the renovations are a disaster. There's plaster falling down from the ceilings, there's holes getting knocked into walls, there are exposed wires, exposed pipes, there's dust everywhere, there's asbestos as well. The characters' lives are just in disarray, so disrupted, and it's so unhealthy for them as well. But the people who run this home don't really care. They just tell the residents to stick it out, put plastic over your furniture, over your TV, any electrical device. Deal with the dust. It's not going to hurt you that much. That's what they keep telling the residents. Even though that in the courtyard there's old toilets and pipework and bars and everything piled everywhere, and the residents are expected to deal with this. There's no service, there's no food service at the home while this is going on. They can get food brought in from outside, but the residents have to pay extra for that. All this stuff's going on, and everything that they need to get extra while this is going on, the people running the home make them pay for it. There's extra charges. That just seems very unfair. And of course, in this book, the family members of these people in the home don't really care. No one's coming to visit them. No one's coming to see they're okay. No one's saying, come live with us for a while. And if they go anywhere and live anywhere else, they're still forced to pay rent for their apartments in this home where they are. And that seems so unfair as well. So all these elements, even though there's some funny elements going on because of it, it's also quite sad because all the residents in this home are just putting up with this, and their lives are just so disrupted and so unhealthy because of it. You feel so sorry for them. But out of the blue, the ambassador, who's a guy who lives at the home as well, now he and Annalisa are now married, and they married towards the end of book 1. He's quite wealthy and he has a few business interests as well. And he decides that they can all go to one of his apartments that he owns. It's a very big apartment. There could be 4 or 5 people living there quite easily. So they do set about going there. And as the ambassador, Annalisa, Irma, Siri, and the 5th person who tags along is a lady called Margaret. And she was introduced in book 1. And in book 1, she's in the home with her husband, Eno. And the big thing about them in book 1 was that they're always having sex in their room. And quite loudly as well. All the other residents can hear them. But in book 2, poor Eno has developed dementia, and he's in the dementia ward. And while the renovations are going on, all the people in that dementia ward are being chipped off somewhere else. But Margaret is quite upset about that. Margaret is upset seeing Eno in the state he is while he has dementia. And she wonders if that there's a way that she can assist him in dying with dignity. She doesn't want him suffering, and she thinks he's suffering because he's not himself anymore. Doesn't know where he is. He's not treated very well, cared for very well in this ward where he is. So she just thinks that he should have more dignity and get to choose how he dies. And there's a big theme running through the book about that, about Margaret's distress, about her husband's predicament, and how she feels about that and the stress that she goes through as well. And that's quite a sad storyline going through the book. There are a few little humorous moments tied in to that storyline though, and that's a bit of comic relief as well in the book. But it is very sad, and while you're reading it, you do feel such empathy for Margaret, and your heart goes out to that character as well. But the extra comic relief going on with Margaret is that she's a terrible roommate to live with. She walks around their apartment naked, and she's very messy. She leaves her bowls everywhere. When she's talking, she spits food everywhere. and she'll never clean up after herself. So that's the other side to the Margaret storyline as well going through there, and that carries on through the whole book. The mystery part of this book was the residents wondering about the firm who's doing the renovations, who the firm is and can they be trusted, because they seem pretty useless. But unfortunately, that part of the book is introduced but never explored fully. And that's quite disappointing, I think, because the mystery element in this book is almost non-existent, and I found that a bit disappointing. While they're in this apartment, strange people always keep turning up, asking for someone who used to live there. And that goes on a few times in this book. And that piques the interest of some of the people who are living in this apartment, Siri and Irma. And they're wondering, why does everyone come to this apartment they're in asking for a guy called Hassan? And then later on, they learn that this guy called Hassan is being found dead somewhere. They also learn that the ambassador, who's now married to Annalisa, may have ties to some criminal activity that's going on in the area. No one's ever sure. It's hinted at a few times in the book, but it's never explored fully. So by the end of the book, we're never really sure if it's true or not. And by the end of the book, there's quite a sad moment as one of the residents who are living in this apartment do pass away. And that's very sad because it's one of our characters that we lose in this series. I'll mention two characters in this section, and they're the two people living in the apartment that I didn't talk about in the first video. So in the first video I talked about Siri, Irma and Annalisa. In this video I'll talk about the ambassador and Margaret. The ambassador, we were introduced to him in book 1, but now he is married to Annalisa, so he becomes a bigger character in the series. He's got many sides to him. Sometimes he can get quite huffy, and he gets quite huffy and upset when they're all playing cards, and if people start talking about random things and forgetting about the card game, that's when he gets upset, especially when he has a good hand at cards. He doesn't like to lose, he likes to win. He's also a bit of a know-it-all, and he likes to, show his superior knowledge about certain things and kind of show people up. That comes through a lot as well. He's also quite generous though. I mean, he's letting people live this apartment he owns for free. He's paying for it all. So he's got these different sides to his personality. But he keeps vanishing, and he vanishes for a couple of weeks at one stage in this book, and that's quite strange, and it does upset Annalisa, upsets her quite a lot. But when he comes back, he's quite caring, and I found that he's got different sides to his personality, but he's got this question mark over his head, and unfortunately it's never explored fully in the book. Does he have links to criminal activity? It wasn't explored to the extent it should have been, and I think we should have had an answer to that, a hard answer, but we never got that. So we're always left with a question mark about the ambassador in this book. Margaret was two things in this book. She was the comic relief, walking around naked in the apartment, spitting food everywhere, leaving plates and things all over the place. But she was also the driver of the very emotional storyline and the theme about a sister dying. So she's got two things going on in this book, and they're quite opposite to each other. So it makes her very complex as a character. On the one side, she's very sad, very stressed, almost depressed. But on the other side, she's doing these things that annoy everybody else. So, very complex character in this book. I liked her in the book. She's a bit different than in book 1. In book 1, we only saw little snippets of her. But in book 2, she's more fleshed out, becomes a more real person in the book. I think the author did a great job in this character. While this book didn't really finalise a lot of things it began to explore, so we didn't finalise all the things about the company that's doing the repairs at Sunset Grove. We didn't finalise what's going on with the ambassador and his businesses. We didn't finalise a few other things in the book. It's still an enjoyable book, and it's enjoyable because of the characters. The characters make this book and this series, and again, the characters are so unique. The whole concept of the book is so unique. It's a fun read. It's It's a sad read as well. It's got a lot of things going on in the book, but I did enjoy this book, and I enjoyed book 1 and book 2 just as much. I rate this a 3 out of 5. It's such a good series in my opinion. Even though the mystery element is very weak, I think the book on its whole is a great book to read just because of those characters. I do review a lot of cozy mysteries on my channel. If you don't want to miss out on those videos, check out my channel and subscribe. There's also a cozy mystery playlist. It should be on your screen now.